It's malty, it's multicultural, it built an entire borough of New York City. Today, we're drinking Brooklyn Lager. Hey guys, it's Jim here from drtangenstein.com with another episode of Beers of the British Isles, the series where I scour the aisles of British supermarkets trying to find the best beers they have to offer. In today's episode, we are drinking an old favourite, Brooklyn Lager, a true legend. Now, this is a lager unlike many others you'll find on the shelves out there. This ain't your dad's lager, unless he's from Brooklyn, then maybe it is. This costs about £1.80. You can get it absolutely anywhere, any supermarket, any shop. You can get it by the pint in most bars. This is a real legend of a beer. Now, it's 5.2%. And when I was a kid, there was a lager that was named after domestic violence, and that was 5%. So this is on the strong side. This to me, this was the first example of an American lager that I actually had. So I just assumed that this was what American lager was. But when you look into it, it's brewed in the Vienna tradition. So this is actually not like a traditional American lager at all. This is kind of a rich amber color. It's malty, it's full-bodied. It's going to be much sweeter than a crisp kind of European or American lager might be. So this packs a real malty punch. There's not a lot of information about the hops. There's not really a lot of information about any of the ingredients on the internet, to be honest, except that you can expect a grapefruit nose, which I'm assuming means that even though it's brewed in the Vienna tradition, even though it's sweet, even though it's malty, even though it's hopefully full-bodied, they threw some dry hops in there, and I'm betting they threw a nice handful of Cascade in there for good measure. But I'm making all these predictions. Why don't we just dive in and see what it tastes like, eh? First things first, before we go any further, I'm drinking this thing cold. A nice delicious lager deserves a nice low temperature. Really with a malty beer like this, I might drink it a little bit higher temperature, but I don't know. It says lager. I've got this thing in my head where I like to drink them cold. Now, as we're looking at this, I mentioned that deep amber color, and if you look, it is much deeper than you might see in, say, definitely a Pilsner, or even just a generic lager that you might find in like a 24 pack or something like that. It's not that sort of golden or straw color that you might expect in a lager. The head is dissipated. I'm going to put that down to the glass that it's in. I don't think that's anything to do with the beer, as I've had examples of this before where the head was quite good. Now, I did mention this dry hopping earlier, this grapefruit nose. So let's have a little sniff there. And there it is. It's very subtle. It's very subtle. Considering they've advertised that, it's super subtle. Although this is a lager, this is a dry hop lager. It's not an IPA. You're not looking for that smack you in the face hop aroma. This is a lager after all. So the grapefruit is there. Now I'm gonna just dive in here and see what it tastes like. Yeah, it's very good. It's actually, you can taste quite a lot of the hops there. So I would say it's on the bitter side, but that's probably there to balance out, like I said, this big malty backbone, because even though these guys do clearly want to make an amber lager, a Vienna style lager, which is this nice sweet malty delicious thing, the market that they're putting it out in knows Budweiser, these beers that are brewed with corn to actually thin them out. So I imagine that's why the beer is on the slightly more bitter side. Also, I find, and this might just be me, but if grapefruit's the only flavour that you can, the only hop flavour that you can really pick out in there, which you can, by the way, that always gives you the impression of bitterness, because grapefruits themselves are quite bitter. You know, it's quite reminiscent of that bitterness. But it's definitely on the bitter side, I would say. That being said, that malt character just comes straight through. It's not treacly, it's not too sweet, but it's very clearly malty. That almost, be careful what I say, but that almost metallic flavour that you get when you've got a real rich malt backbone that's at odds with the bitterness. Yeah, and the carbonation in this is also absolutely spot on. I've said this before, but in a lager, in a beer that's supposed to be crisp, especially if you're making one at home, just to absolutely hammer that crispness home, make sure the carbonation's on point, because that immediately wins that battle for you, or at least puts you a few steps forward. The brewery themselves, Brooklyn Brewery, was founded somewhere between 1984 and 1988. It's hard to kind of pin down when it was actually formed, because it was formed by homebrewers. So I believe that when this thing was actually first created, it was potentially a homebrew recipe. Like I say, it's quite difficult to track down the dates on that one. But founded by homebrewers in the 80s at least, Brooklyn, New York. As far as I know, this was a time when not really a lot was going on around there. I mean, obviously stuff's always been going on, but this was kind of like back in the day, kind of before gentrification, all that stuff. So a couple of homebrewers founded a brewery, and I believe that Brooklyn Lager's first sales abroad were actually just a fan drop shipping it to Japan, and that's how they broke into the international market. Now, on their website, Brooklyn Brewery say that their beers are found wherever vibrant, open-minded people are found. Now, I think I definitely agree that those are the kind of people that will drink their beers. However, this beer in particular is sort of found everywhere now. So, it's funny to have that picture in your head of a I don't know, all these, of a real cool crowd sipping on a Brooklyn lager, and then you go for a walk into Sheffield and you see the people that are actually drinking it. But that being said, this definitely deserves vibrant, open-minded people. Now the brewery, what I will say is, despite who ends up drinking their beers, they're real excellent believers in people. They're a real supporter of the Stonewall charity. They donate to a lot of LGBTQ+ charities and stuff like that. These guys are the real deal. They're a real craft brewery that just so happen to be a big brewery. So they have a lot of money and a lot of resource to throw around, and they definitely do that to good effect. To sum up then, colour, amber, as you would expect. Much darker than your average lager, but much lighter than, say, a bitter or something like that. It's not copper, it's amber. The grapefruit aroma is ever so slightly there, but it's just enough. It's exactly as much as it needs. The flavour is on the bitter side, but I think that's good because it makes it much more crisp. As I say, it pairs with the carbonation to bring that crispness that, I mean, I don't want to say that you would expect of a macro lager, but when you hear the word lager, it has certain connotations, and if that's what you were expecting, they've at least towed that line a little bit, because it is actually quite malty, not so sweet and sickly like it could have been, but it is malty. It does pack a punch. It's also very crisp and bitter as well. Now, I'm not going to rate this beer out of 10. What I will do instead is say if this beer was a song, and maybe you go listen to it as you crack your Brooklyn Lager open at home, if this beer was a song, it would be simply Beer by Real Big Fish. An awesome song for an awesome beer, because this just is beer. If you like this beer, after you head down to a supermarket and grab one, grab the can, take it down to your local independent bottle shop, show them what you like, and they'll find examples of this that you'll love, I'm sure. In the meantime, guys, cheers.